Hey, anybody who decides to listen to this crap. This is my first podfic, so tell me if you think this is good or if I should just go back to making shorts and edits. I will be reading the first chapter of the story, Percy Jackson, the Missing Hero, written by Rose Petals, read by Goose. Tags include Apollo, Chaos, Chaos AU, Fanfic, Fanfiction, Heroes of Olympus, Mythology, Olympians, Percy Jackson, Poseidon, Riordan Verse, Slowburn, Solangelo, and AU. Chapter 1. Percy Jackson, the Missing Hero. Nathan Burns. Perhaps a simplistic name, especially when shortened to the owner's preferred, Nat, but the name of someone who Percy vehemently disliked. Disliked to such an extent that he had one simple wish when it came to Nathan Nat Burns. He wished that he had the type of personality and lack of consciousness to bring about the downfall of the boy, in a painful and twisted manner, but refrained as it was not part of his character, although Nathan was swiftly pushing the boundaries of Percy's self-made rule involving a lack of desire to hurt any demigod that he had no reason to fight. Perhaps some may have argued in his favor that Nathan certainly had given him reason to fight. As often when the question was raised as to what Nathan had done, they would respond with a definitive everything. When scoffed at and asked if it were a mere exaggeration, they would swiftly retort that it was the truth, that Nathan had certainly attempted to sabotage the best parts of Percy's life, along with the parts that already lay in tatters. It had been constant over the long 6 weeks that he had been present at camp, with Percy muttering darkly on more than one occasion that he wished to part Nathan's head from his shoulders, but never fulfilled the action, even when he had been claimed by Poseidon, announcing that he had been important enough for the god to have broken the oath for a second time, this time for a proper hero. Percy winced at the thought of his father, Poseidon. He had been different the last few times Percy had seen him, so different that he hadn't even reacted to Percy playfully addressing him as Lord Poseidon, nodding blankly as if it were perfectly normal for Percy to address him as such, instead of the dad they had recently progressed to. When summoned to camp by Zeus, he had been proud to admit that Nathan was his son, eyes passing over Percy as if he were a ghost. Percy hadn't spoken to him since, choosing to keep his distance whenever he saw him around camp with Nathan. He often wondered now if Poseidon regretted meeting his mom and having him, if his dad would have preferred for Nathan to be his Heroes of Olympus. He wished for it not to be true, but it was still a present fear in the back of his mind, with Poseidon doing nothing to alleviate such fears. He presented a happy facade to his mom and Paul, pretending that all was well at camp, relaying false tales of triumphant games of Capture the Flag and joyful campfires. In truth, he hadn't participated in Capture the Flag, nor had he attended the campfire since before Nathan's arrival. He kept the truth a secret, not wishing to alarm or worry either of them. His mom was still worried about that Hera would spirit him away for an unprecedented amount of time, telling nobody of his whereabouts. Silently, he almost wished for the goddess to do such a thing, as it would take him away from camp and Nathan for at least a few months. Camp, he winced again, staring at the roof of his cabin. Dionysus was ignoring him again, but that was nothing new. But the fact that Chiron had been unmistakably distant with him was new, and it was something that he found almost intolerable. The centaur had been his mentor since he was 12, believing in him when nobody else had. His distance hurt, especially when Percy attempted conversation with him, which only led to furtive glances as their stilted conversation occurred, as if the centaur was nervous about who could possibly see or hear them speaking to one another. His responsibilities had been inexplicably cut, gradually over the first 3 weeks, before a sudden and complete reduction to the barest necessities from a cabin head. He feared that soon the position would also be taken from him. It wasn't so much the responsibility being taken that hurt, but the alienation from his fellow campers. The fact that he could no longer help guide and instruct the younger kids, who respected him for what he had taught them, not because he was a war hero. His friends, too. How he missed his friends. First and foremost, Annabeth had always been his friend, and then a lover. and now she was as distant as Chiron. As the longest-serving member of camp, she had always met anyone new who crossed the borders, which unfortunately included Nathan. Nathan, who had charmed her with casual quotations from some of Annabeth's favorite novels, followed by intimate discussions of characters, symbolism, and other such topics that Percy wasn't able to comprehend. He saw her by chance, usually when she stopped by his and Nathan's silent dinner table to ask Nathan something about a novel, with an author whose name Percy could barely pronounce. He charmed the rest of his friends too, both expected and unexpected. He held the grudging respect of Clarice, who had taken to muttering the words toilet water whenever she passed Percy, despite their state of truce that bordered on ridiculous friendship. With Nathan on side, it would become all-out war, with his half-brother making snide, encouraging remarks whenever Clarice and Percy somehow ended up sparring. After a particularly crude comment from Nathan, when Percy had ended up on the floor again, he had stood and simply left the arena, seeking out those who had simply scoffed at Nathan's presence and taken Percy further under their wing. Thalia and Grover had been furious on his behalf, Grover persuading the nymphs to play their tricks on Nathan while Thalia threatened to raise hell when she was at camp next. As Lord of the Wild, Grover was rather persuasive, and Percy had seen Nathan covered in leaves on more than one occasion. He'd also made a passing comment about Nathan smelling funny, which he decided to remember. Thalia, although away with the hunters, had other ways to carry out her business. Oddly, Leo had been quite vehement in his protection of Percy, keeping him company whenever he wasn't busy in the forge with his siblings. Then there was Nico. Nico had barged into his cabin about 5 minutes after that IM call ended, declaring that he was a living embodiment of hell and that Thalia had sent him. After several days in the infirmary under Will Solus's watchful eye, Nico had been recalled to the underworld by his father to help with the influx of spirits caused by the giant war. He'd returned at Thalia's insistence, muttering about scary women as he gave Percy a nervous smile and an offer of genuine friendship. Several incidents about the underworld and its inhabitants later, Nathan had a broken nose and Nico was refusing to go to the infirmary for an ice pack. Leo had gone for him, feigning a burn to the hand, which everyone knew he couldn't receive. He'd returned triumphant, however, giving Nico a gentle smile as he handed it over. After escaping on Festus, Leo had been missing from camp for a long 3 weeks, presumed dead by all. He'd returned shaken and quiet, refusing to talk to the majority of people. He was still searching for something, however, disappearing on long weekends and sometimes for weeks. After the first time someone had pressed too hard for an answer, nobody asked him where he went. Until Nathan, the idiot, had asked too much, pressed too hard, and then finally insulted too much. Leo had seared his eyebrows off, along with burning every item of clothing that Nathan had possessed. Percy had walked into cabin 3 to find him contemplating Nathan's bed and given him advice on how to shift the blame, and Leo had cracked a smile for the first time in weeks. The loyalty that Percy had offered to his friends and fellow campers was not reciprocated, forcing him to, for the first time since he had returned Zeus's bolt, reevaluate whether he truly belonged at the camp. He was well aware of the fact that he'd been nicknamed the Pawn of Olympus for years by a few of the more cynical campers, but it was the first time that he felt as if it was all he was. Percy lay there for a moment or two longer before rolling out of his bunk, his decision made. He was leaving. Okay, so the first chapter was way shorter than I thought it was going to be, so I'm actually going to be reading the second chapter in the same video. Just made sense to me. Chapter 2. A New Adventure. Percy was reluctant to cross the borders, turning to survey the camp for a final time when he reached Thalia's tree. He had no intentions of returning, not while Nathan was still an active presence within the camp. Careful not to disturb the sleeping dragon, he reached over Peleus's scaly hide and pressed his hand against the tree, praying for luck. Then he stepped over the border, a chill running down his spine. He questioned his decision for a moment before shaking his head, as if to clear it, and continued to walk forward. His one regret was not saying goodbye to Grover, Nico, and Leo, at least not in person, Notes hidden beneath his pillow now seemed impersonal, but he was well aware that they would either try to persuade him to stay or offer to accompany him. Percy would have been weak to such an offer, but objectively he knew that it would be unfair to drag them along when he didn't even know where he was going himself. His mom and Paul's apartment was a fairly lucrative prospect, as Percy knew that they would want to know that he was safe, but he also had to consider that it would likely be the first place anyone looked for him, if anyone looked at all. For a moment he considered Alaska, or some other land that was beyond the gods, wanting nothing more than to escape, to get away. It would be a fresh start, a chance to be something new. He walked on, heading up towards the road where there was a sharp burst of light momentarily blinding him, dark spots dancing in his eyes. The chill crept up on his spine yet again, and there was a sudden rumble of thunder, not making logical sense when there wasn't even a cloud in the sky. Perseus Jackson. Two voices sounded, his vision clearing. Unfortunately, there were two voices that he recognized. What, you're going to tell me I can't leave? Percy glared at them. You need me to fill the next great prophecy? Zeus sighed, scowling at the ground in favor of looking at Percy, an expression of pure distaste on his face. Percy was well aware of the gods' dislike of him, knowing how fond Zeus was of putting forth a vote on should we kill Percy Jackson every solstice. Thankfully, he was yet to succeed. We need you to do a favor for us, Perseus, Hades stated dryly, looking the epitome of boredom. And no, it is not fulfilling the next great prophecy. Yet. Why would the god of the skies and the god of the underworld want me, the son of the sea god, to do them a favor? Percy huffed, not caring any more about offending them. Why should I do you a favor anyway? Well, Perseus, you have absolutely nothing left. Hades gave him a chilling smile, hitting exactly where it hurt. Why wouldn't you? Percy's expressions darkened. I'm perfectly aware of the fact, Uncle. You don't need to remind me. I was simply stating a simple fact we all know to be true. Hades merely shrugged. You've lost everything, Perseus, but we can give you something back. All of your gifts come with a price, Percy responded with a shake of his head. I don't think I want to know what the price is. You've already paid the price, Perseus. Hades smirked. You would have to lose everything, and well, you already have. You're the perfect candidate. Candidate for what? Percy regarded them with suspicion, still concerned that Zeus was yet to say a word. Lord Chaos needs an army, Perseus, and it seems that you are the most suitable for the job, in his opinion. Zeus responded with a lofty sigh. I personally do not understand why he would want you, but I have a feeling that he has a soft spot for outcasts. Zeus, dear, there is really no reason to be so nasty to the boy. An omniscient voice drawled. Percy uncapped riptide, the pen having been in his hand since he had come face to face with his uncles. Chaos, there's no need to continue lurking in the shadows, Zeus huffed. I've had quite enough of Hades doing that. Please join us. Honestly, Zeus, you ruin everything, Chaos stated, the outline of the man shimmering, starting to form from the darkness surrounding them. Well, you must blame my wife for that habit, Zeus snapped in response. Percy winced at the thought of Hera, but honestly, wondering whether or not Zeus was being sarcastic. I thought you had a lovely wife. Chaos raised an eyebrow. Percy resisted the urge to laugh. Do not mention my wife, Zeus hissed, shuddering. Should you be speaking to the creator of the universe like that? Percy couldn't resist commenting, quietly thankful that he had listened to Annabeth discussing the origins of the universe with Nathan the other evening. Nobody asked for your opinion, Perseus, Zeus snarked, voice cold. Brother, he does have a point, you know, Hades stating, giving Percy a frightening smile. Percy gave a weak one in response. I'm going back to my wife, Zeus huffed. Have fun explaining everything to your favorite nephew, brother. He disappeared in a flash of lightning, thunder rolling ominously overhead. He would be far more suited as to the god of theater. His flair for the dramatics is unparalleled. Chaos mused before his gaze fixated upon Percy. Hello, Perseus. Hello. Percy wasn't quite sure how to respond. I prefer Percy, though. My uncle here cannot seem to remember that. Oh, hush, nephew, I call you what I wish. Hades rolled his eyes. Be thankful I'm not calling you Mini Poseidon or not Triton. Please don't. Percy winced. I don't call you not Thanatos or Bone Dude, do I? Would the pair of you cease your bickering? Chaos interrupted before Hades could respond. I'm trying to make a dramatic offer here. Go ahead. Don't let us stop you. Percy gestured for Chaos to go ahead. Hades subtly rolling his eyes. Join me, Perseus Jackson. Chaos boomed. You may not get this life back. He flicked his hand towards camp, but you shall gain another. I'll give you an 8 out of 10. I was expecting a rumble of thunder, so I'm going to have to give you a 7.5 instead. Alright, everybody, thank you for listening. The second part of Chapter 2 will be in the next video, along with Chapter 3, because the remainder of my audio got corrupted or something. Please leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys thought of this video. Thank you for listening.